My name is Grant Kao. I'm the Associate Creative Director of Borderlands 4.
My name is Jamie Marchi, and I am a writer on Borderlands 4, and I'm also the voice of Ellie.
So what was your biggest takeaway from 3 that your studio brought with you into 4, either from a story perspective or a design perspective?
We wanted to transition to the seamless world, and one of the big things that we took away from 3 to 4 was to kind of give players the opportunity to kind of manipulate the environment, play how they want to play, and not feel like they're locked down to certain choices that we made in BL3 that might have locked them down in 3, and we want to break that in 4. So that was like the direction, the mantra of the game is sort of the design direction of the game also.
I guess for me, I would say just with the DLC being announced today, bringing Ellie back, that was a very important thing for me. So that was nice, but also just listening to the fans and the response, and I think that we took some really good feedback and made the most of it.
You mentioned the seamless world. What does that open up for you as a creative director and as a writer when you're not a case into the large hub format?
Well, from our perspective for design, we made a whole new movement suite for the players. We made new skills that can operate at close, far, medium ranges. We wanted the story to kind of be evolving wherever the player is going. So if the player is in one zone, they can go to story to a different zone versus being like a linear form that all Borderlands have had. Borderlands have always had very large spaces, but we wanted to make sure that when they can choose which space they go into and then use the tools that we give them to kind of progress how they want to progress. And that was the difference with the seamless world.
And for the different areas, I think what is great with what we've done with the writing is there are very unique characters in each of those different areas, and so they sound different, they behave different, and so it's really nice to be able to introduce the Vault Hunter to these different types of people and see what those interactions are between everybody in those events.
And to piggyback off that, one of the great things that we've really dove into are the different factions that exist on Kairos. In previous Borderlands, there's always been different types of people, but now we're really kind of identifying factions as if they're like a manufacturer that are like iconic in our game's lore. So the factions of Kairos are sort of like an emergent way of telling the story through the seamless world. So yeah, it's a great point, Jamie.
As technology improves and it opens up more doors for you to do like crazy things, does that affect like the writing or the story at all as the technology improve, or is the writing always the writing?
Well, I think the writing is always character-based, right? So no matter the tech, you know, the character is the character. They're just living in a different environment and learning how to function in that environment, kind of in the same way we are, I guess. Yep. But yeah, it's character-based.
No, is there a challenge when voicing your own character and writing for your character as well? Do you feel like maybe, do you play favorites? Do you try to stay away? Do you try to be even?
Well, it's very fresh, writing and voicing it. Very, very fresh. And it's surreal, you know, to have voiced Ellie since Borderlands 2. Like, I think I started 2007 maybe working with her. And so to now, I feel like she's a part of who I am at this point, so it comes very naturally. I think the hardest part is, you know, being directed in a way. Like, I'm like, but I want to do this. And it's like, that may not be best. So I have to pay attention to everybody else and not just do what I want.
You don't get to stop your feet and be like, these are my words and I wrote them and I'm going to say them the way I want.
I'm not going to say I don't do that.
I'm not going to say you don't do that.
Yeah. But what if? Yeah.
Well, Borderlands has always been story-centric, but you also have to put in mechanics, gameplay. Is it hard to juggle all those elements to make sure they all fit well and flow together?
I think that's our formula. I mean, that's what makes Borderlands different than other games in the genre. Like we are a story-focused game that mixes looter and shooter and whatnot. But like, I mean, people care about the characters, whether it's Handsome Jack in BL2 or the Vault Hunters in 2, 1, 3, 4, and now 4. Like, we put a huge emphasis on the characters, and that's our formula, right? We want players to identify with these characters in the game, and the rest is just easy.
I feel like if they don't resonate with the characters, they resonate with like the manufacturers or a weapon or an NPC, right? Because the world is just so bombastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what's so great about the world is there's always so many different people and things you can interact with and love in different ways. So yeah, if you're there to love a character, you're going to find something to love, 1000%.
And I think one thing that we don't do is that we don't have a lot of ambiguity we try to make sure that like, hey, explicitly these are the characters in our game that exist in our universe, and there are fantasies that are attached with them. There are tropes and fantasies that players can easily identify with, and that's what makes it great. If you identify with these characters and in the world and with the different manufacturers, and the gear has personality, the characters have personality, everything has personality that we want players to identify with, and that's the magic of the game.
I think too, there is something to be said for people who love what they do, creating something. It is just effervescent. I think you can see it in the work, and I think that people who play our games know we just love it. We love working on them and are so happy to be able to do it.
There's been so many games and spin-offs. Is it hard as a writer to maintain the continuity and the lore? Do you take little liberties here and there when you have to? Or are you how much research has to go into all that stuff?
Well, we definitely have lore that we follow, and so we want to maintain that, but also with the flexibility to explore new ways of being for characters, right? We don't want them to always be the exact same. We want growth, we want development, just like the games have growth and development. Our characters should have that too. Our players have that, so why would we not have that with the characters as well? Yeah.
What's been your biggest challenge on this project as a creative director?
Oh gosh, where to start? The seamless world being a huge challenge, and wanting to bring the kind of, there are tropes in large world games that we were trying to make sure that, like, what is the Borderlands way of doing that, right? So that was, the first thing that we wanted to tackle. The second was making sure that gear, characters, the missions, and all those things kind of worked well and synergized well in a seamless world, because we knew how to tell a story in a linear way. We wanted to make sure, how do we tell multiple stories, layers upon layers of stories, connecting different manufacturers, new characters, new antagonists. How do we take all of that and mush it all together in a new format? And that probably was the greatest challenge to the whole project.
Biggest challenge as a writer on the project?
For me as a writer, I'm so glad I'm doing it and so happy to do it that a challenge is just exciting. You know what I mean? What do they say? Like, pilots love it when things get iffy up there, because then they get to actually show their skill. Like, it's just a little more exciting. I think that's kind of, and you might feel the same way too, when things are challenging, you just are more engaged no matter what the challenge may be, whether it's timing, whether it's like getting character, and maybe it's, making sure you get a line in that you really want to get in. Like, those are the challenges that they're not, I love them. So it's hard to be like, oh, that was harder, because I'm just so happy that I'm doing it.
Do you actually have like an opportunity to do the voiceovers with other actors in the booth? Or you guys one at a time?
The actors are one at a time. Yes, yeah, that's how they have to do it. It's just, especially, like, I would never do that to audio, right? Like, that would be so hard for them to have to, schedules are really hard.
So much better feedback sometimes when they're there in the room, right? You can get that.
True. Yeah, if you have several people, it can be, but it depends on the actor. Some actors prefer to do it one at a time because then they can really focus on it. I think, as long as an actor has a vivid imagination and can really imagine who those characters are, and luckily the Borderlands characters are so unique and diverse that I think it's a little easier for an actor to imagine these wild characters and that they're playing with them. It's just it's a game to record as well, right? It's just a fun game to play.
Is there a particular weapon you're really excited for players to experience that they haven't seen yet?
I think players are going to find a lot of, there's always been a love-hate relationship with charging weapons. And we knew that when we made charging weapons in Borderlands 3, and we took a different spin on it in Borderlands 4. So there's no pure charge weapon in Borderlands 4. There's charging mechanisms that are similar, but there's always an alternative to that too, in the gun, not a different gun, in the gun. So that players that don't like charging can fire it like in a different manner or a semi-automatic manner. So like, I think that's a cool aspect of the game that, like, it's hard to describe in words, but when you feel it, when you actually shoot it, it's still very responsive. If you don't want to play the charge game, you don't have to, but if you do play the charge game, you are heavily rewarded. And that's through the order of manufacturer.
If you were to print out your script on sheets of paper, how many inches would it be for this story?
Oh my gosh. I couldn't tell you. Well, because we really have had so many, we have, I think a dozen writers working on it, and so we all have our different, side missions, main missions, all the, different quests and stuff like that. Pickup lines.
Yeah.
So And I feel like if I thought about it too hard, it might make me sad or stressed, right? And so, oh God, do you have?
I no less than like 4 pages at least. Like
four pages, size 8 font, size 6 font.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
there was a
massive.
lot. I mean,
It's a massive,
yeah.
yeah.
Even in the next kind of like DLC content that we're working on. I mean, these things are, you know, bite-sized gameplay compared to the main campaign, but they are still massive in scripts. So like, there's a lot of
Our
lines.
battle dialogue, I think, is unlike anything we've ever done. It is massive.
Well, it needs to be, because if you're playing a game, you don't want to hear the same, death thing over and over and over again, right? So you got to do 50 takes of something.
Yep. And there are. I hope everybody loves them because we spent a lot of time making them unique and different. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, we're a character game, but that also includes enemies too.
Yeah.
And the enemy dialogue is also extremely important, as we all know with Handsome Jack, the twins in BL3, and now with the Timekeeper in BL4. Like, there's so much dialogue between, the characters, but there's also so much dialogue with the antagonists. So there's a lot. Yeah.
And it's more than just as characters talking to one another in real time. You also have a lot of environmental storytelling and like the areas and the audio diaries you pick up. Talk about how you write that for the game, or how you work with the narrative director to achieve that goal.
Well, yeah, it depends on what our needs are. So maybe we have, this mission, we didn't get as much information as we needed, so let's cover this in one of those epilogues. Or it really depends on the needs of the whole story, and then we kind of sort out what we want to do from there, just to make sure everybody's kind of getting a fair story. You get a little tidbit from a lot of different characters on what their experience is.
And then for you, do your producers help keep you on track because you have to manage the whole creative direction of everything?
Oh yeah, the producers definitely keep us on track. If we don't, they'll hound us, and to avoid having so many meetings, you have to have people that help you kind of keep things on track and trust in those people to do the work. So, or else you'll be stuck in meeting hell for a very long time. Yeah.
They're the loveliest, scariest people I know.
What's a big misconception from someone who doesn't know nothing about game design about your job as a creative director?
Oh, great question.
I want to know that.
People think that you're the guy in charge, right? You make all the executive decisions and you decide how the art's going to look and how everything's going to go. But
I mean, I have kids, so I would say the greatest misconception is that it's just all fun and games. And there's a lot of hard work that goes into it, mostly because it's highly collaborative. And I have to have a lot of trust in all my peers. Borderlands Gearbox is like over 500 people now, and you have to have all this trust with all these peers to kind of execute the vision that you've established, and hopefully with the right direction and the way we develop things at Gearbox, there's a level of trust that has to be extended so far beyond just hey, this is the idea that we have, because we let people run with ideas. We let people kind of put their own spin on it, whether it's in the gear, whether it's in the characters, or whether it's in the story. You can mission designers have put their own spin on what the kind of story script is there, but they want the output to be a certain way, whether the action's climactic or whether or not, kind of going back to your last questions of asking hey, how do you put in the echo stuff? If a mission designer is designing a mission that's at the climax of the story, right? The explicit narrative might be a little light, and they're going to focus a lot on hey, what is the action beats? What are the enemies and stuff like that? And that's where you have the trust that they take that creative freedom to integrate either the story explicitly, or requesting a collectible or an echo log or whatever, or just putting it into the scene itself to tell it implicitly, right? So that's the challenge of someone in my seat, is to say here's the overall direction, here's the script, go, right? and then there's a constant iteration feedback loop that we kind of go through, and that takes that could take years.
I think as the voiceover is that we know more of the process, right? I had no idea until I got behind the scenes how much went into every single thing, how collaborative it is. I think a lot of people don't realize that with writers too, how collaborative it is with the mission designers. And so I think too, there's maybe people don't understand what you were saying about, it's very improv, yes, there's a lot of yes anding, which is really nice with our team. I think people are very open to exploring stuff, and I don't know if everybody realizes that. Like a lot of times, it's riffing that comes is how we get our favorite stuff.
Yeah, and that's what causes nightmares for producers.
That's right. But that's none of our business.
Okay, what's the strangest piece of feedback or critique you've had to give someone or received while working on Borderlands 4?
Well, as you know, like with Borderlands 4, we wanted to make the tone more serious and darker. So we had to go through and say, like, is this a meme? This is not a meme, is it? And you know, like, you know, everybody knew we were trying to go for a more serious tone. But there are some times where things just sort of align, and like, we're not trying to make a pop culture reference, but it sort of just is one. And so, like, there's that feedback of like, can we make this our own and not make it a like pop culture-y type thing? And like, we put effort into that, you know. And then that was like the most, you know, like kind of awkward feedback to give someone. It's like, I don't know if this is pop culture for you, but this is pop culture for me. And like, am I showing my age? Maybe, I don't know. Like, so like that was probably the most awkward feedback I've had to give, was like, let's adjust this. And it was like the name of a piece of gear, you know. And it was just like, it's so benign to change, but it was just like, let's just change it, you know. Like let's just, you know. So
Will it pass cert? I don't know. We're gonna find out.
yeah, and you know, like now we have, now being under 2K, we have like a more like a better relationship with like 2K and what they want. So like, it's like, well, I'm not sure this will pass 2K, so don't do it, you know, like stuff like that.
Same question for you as a writer. What's the weirdest piece of feedback you've received or critique or VO? You can pick one.
Sometimes it's that the lawyers won't like it.
I don't want to get you in trouble.
Well, just references or
Yeah.
you know, things that you never know. You never know. So sometimes it's that, or you know, sometimes it was a little bit of the meminess that maybe I didn't even realize was a meme. It's like, oh, okay, we have to revisit that. But I think, you know, I don't know. It's all such a part of the process. It's hard to kind of find the one thing. You just fix it and you go on. Yeah, he's the feedback giver. I'm the feedback receiver, and so.
I would say it's also a testament to like a lot of the ways we develop at Gearbox, in that like we like people to explore like what, like, you know, like I said, we empowered the developers to kind of put their own spin on things. But at the same time, it's like, you know, we know what we're all doing and what we're all aiming for. So a lot of the feedback is just well received across the board, and it's a feedback driven company. So when we implement something, it goes through so many iterations, so that like giving feedback doesn't feel old, like super unnatural in the sense, because it's just like, it's sort of expected. Like even at this show, I'm getting pinged on like, hey, what do you think about this for post-launch? What do you think about this for post-launch? And like, you know, I'm giving as best answers I can, you know, through my phone as I'm like stepping in between shows and stuff. But like, yeah, I mean, like, we're just a super feedback-driven company, and that's the culture of Gearbox. You know, so.
You're locked. It's 2 weeks. We're locked. No changes. Just bug fixes. Yeah. We're not adding a new mechanic.
I mean, sometimes the directors adds the thing. Sometimes the director's gold plate at the very end. So, you know.